Not interested in proving to you that these people hate white people. If you don't understand that,
wait. Hold on, I'm gonna replay that. If you just listen carefully. Hold on. That was the funniest shit I've ever heard. You know, I was looking at John Doyle's channel because we had such a good time yesterday going over his debunking the myth of systemic racism, where every single one of his sources disagreed with him to the point where I'm pretty sure he just shrugged his shoulders and said he read them. But I thought, hey, why don't we go over another video? And then I saw this one. And this one looks hilarious too. Why the left hates white people. Yeah, I'm on the left. Apparently, I hate white people. I didn't know this. Did you guys know this? Did you guys know that you actually hate white people too? I don't know. Let's take a look at it.
We've heard quite a lot about systemic racism recently in the media, and so hopefully we're going to get a chance to talk about why that's just not true at all. But we've also got a lot of different topics.
We went over that video, and it was true, but good memes
to get through, such as why white liberals hate themselves, whether Republicans can ever get the black vote, why everyone thinks that fascists are bad but communists are cool, how Republicans set themselves up to
everyone loves Stalin, but let's hear him out.
Lose with the left's morality, all sorts of stuff. So be sure to watch all the way through. Watch it in parts if you have to, but it's going to be very epic, so do stay tuned.
Another 40-minute video from Doyle. Another 40 minutes of stupid from a role player. I love how this is. Wait, why football? It's the 50s. Come on, man.
Doyle,
baseball was way more.
Heck off, commie.
Way more cool back then.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Heck Off
What's
Commie.
up?
Got a lot to talk about today. Very important video. Very important topics. Seems like we've been gone for a while, but you know that's just the cycle of things. I get stressed out about a bunch of stuff. I get depressed for a few days, and then I come back with a lot to say.
Damn, that's actually kind of sad. I hope John Doyle's doing okay. I'm being serious too. You shouldn't be stressed. You shouldn't be depressed. Okay, man. That's a lot better when you like don't put so much stress on yourself.
And it usually makes for a pretty good video, so that's very
Oh,
epic.
well, never
Might
mind.
say some stuff that you like. Might
Do
say
whatever
some
the
stuff that you don't
content needs.
But you're at the very least going to want to watch all the way through. I would not steer you wrong, but I thought that I should first announce the long-awaited and much-requested Heck Off Commie Discord server is just hours away from launching. It's probably up right now.
Oh shit, we got teasers for the John Doyle Discord.
To members over at heckoffcommie.com.
Took lots of engineering.
You want to talk to the boys and myself about politics, it's only $4, plus you get access to a bunch of other cool stuff like book recommendations.
Oh yeah.
And
The John Doyle equivalent of OnlyFans is seeing what video game he's playing and talk to a bunch of his other sweaty fans.
get to vote on video topics, stuff like that, and it helps support the channel, which of course is very epic. We've also been doing Zoom call lotteries for members, where basically a bunch of us just hop into a Zoom call and talk about stuff, because we got to stick together.
That sounds fun.
Got to take care of each other, because no one else will. So that's epic. But yeah, I wanted to talk about race and
Jesus, John Doyle's like going through some shit. Like no one else will take care of you except for these Zoom calls. Hope he's doing okay.
Today about the politics of racism, things of that nature, and these are things that are considered to be controversial by people online who aren't actually living in the real world, or who just want to like clutch their pearls at everything you say to try to make you look bad or look.
That's
like
us.
maybe get you
We clutch our pearls.
Process. But I actually had a conversation like this at a grad party a few Sundays ago with a young lady who is very liberal, very far left, and I never drink. I don't like drinking, but I'll do it if I know it's going to be funny. Like if I'm going to drink, it's going to be to the point where it becomes someone else's problem. So at the
Can I get a weird champ? Like what the fuck? I don't think that's a healthy way to drink, but okay. Yo, this is John Doyle, and apparently the left hates white people. He is single-handedly fighting off the Red Scare from America. He's single-handedly doing it.
the time I was like, yeah, let's get wasted and bring up Black Lives Matter to the drunk white boy.
His idea of a good time is getting wasted and bringing up politics.
Who have been spamming social media to end racism for the last 2 months. And for some reason, I can actually articulate myself better and at a faster rate when I'm drunk. I don't know why, but anyway, so I'm talking to this girl for like an hour.
I don't believe that.
Included with her saying,
well, actually, he has such a low bar that I actually do believe it. I take it all back. I'd love to talk to drunk John Doyle. Maybe he'd be like reading the fucking study that he cites and says, wait, this doesn't say what I thought I did. Maybe he'd have a little more like a clear conscience. Maybe he'd be able to like sleep better.
you know, I'm too messed up to have this conversation right now, but I just want to say that I agree with like 90% of what you just said, and I'm sorry for misjudging you. And then Proxy Cameraman Matrix just stands up. He's like, the final red pill, John is reasonable. And I just thought that was very funny. But I also think the whole conversation is pretty emblematic of where we are as a country, because the people who are the most invested in these narratives, whether it's Black Lives Matter or whatever the civil rights movement of the week is, these
Of
people
the
are
week,
always
yeah, of the week. It's not like Black Lives Matter has been an ongoing issue since the foundation of this country, and this is just the form it's taken since black people, despite us saying we care and despite doing what we can, well, the bare minimum is really what I mean. Ends up, if you fuck people over for like 200 years, they're still gonna have issues. Fun fact, I didn't know this, but he still hasn't talked about what I actually care about, why the left hates white people. I haven't heard a single thing about white people, just why Black Lives Matter, which isn't contradictory with white people. But let's hear him out. Let's hear him out.
incredibly emotional. They are visibly invested emotionally into these things. And those who
Yeah,
are
people tend to be invested in their civil rights.
inclined to agree with these narratives might mistake that investment as passion. And I'm sure that there are a lot of very passionate people fighting on behalf of these narratives. But really what it comes down to...
Wait, he's sure there's a lot of passionate people? Then who's he talking about? Are there like paid actors who go out there and scream about Black Lives Matter? Is that who he's talking about? Or is he just saying things?
is that these people are hurting on the inside, completely irrespective of the problems which these narratives
Well,
supposedly
we've already
seek to
seen that
solve.
John's hurting
It's
on
not
the
a
inside from the
coincidence
last
that
3
people
minutes.
attack you, ostracize you, just act
A little bit of
viciously towards you,
projecting.
but then if you get them a little drunk, you find out that they're deeply insecure about themselves. They feel as though their lives have no meaning, etc. And that's what
Monka S. I still think this is projecting. John, come on, dude. It's okay. Just go to therapy. We love you over here. Maybe if you recognize that the reason, I don't know. What do you think he's insecure about? I actually don't know. He seems like an okay looking dude. Maybe a little skinny, but like I'm a little overweight. We can get through it. We're fine. John, it's okay. We love you.
one of the cores of liberalism. That is one of the largest predictors of a person identifying as left-wing, which is their level of insecurity. If you're insecure about yourself, you have a
Projecting.
perception of yourself, maybe rightfully so, you know that you're not going to fare as well in a competitive system compared to someone who's
Projecting.
confident and capable. But you still have an instinct to survive and to achieve what you believe is the
Projecting.
best case scenario for yourself, whatever that may be. And so that would compel you to
John,
gravitate
I have a really well paying job. I do this shit for fun, okay? Trust me when I say that I'm not fucking projecting, okay, dude?
towards something.
Facial hair? He could get some facial hair, but I don't know. He looks good clean shaven. You know, he's probably one of these 50s role players who thinks like beards are communist or something, and that he like grows a beard, it's gonna like take over his face and make him start like fucking praising Stalin or some shit.
A system that can supposedly ensure equality and egalitarianism. And on top of that, it's a matter of identifying with struggle. What really woke me up to this was seeing one of my friends, a tweet from one of my friends a couple years ago. This guy was never really into politics at all, but he did have some self-esteem issues since he didn't really have any goals or interests or anything like that. He was out of shape. And one day I saw him reply to a tweet talking about, you know, the families being separated at the southern border. And he said,
wait, did he just quote families? You know, the quote unquote families. Like, what? Hold on, I gotta re-see that. Did he actually do that?
Any goals or interests or anything like that. He was out of shape. And one day I saw him reply to a tweet talking about, you know, the families being separated.
Yeah, the families. Okay, John, I don't know about that one, but continue.
Saying that it's a good thing, have never had to face any legitimate struggle in their lives. And it clicked. It's like, that's what it is. These people are projecting their internal struggles and insecurities on.
Holy shit, this is like the 7th layer of projection. John Doyle is projecting that people are projecting onto him.
Movements because they believe that they understand the struggle that these groups believe that they're facing.
Believe that they're facing. Like, look at his language and how he like downplays the literal, like the actual struggles of people in cages, people in detention centers, people who are disproportionately affected by police. These aren't struggles. These are like fake struggles to him.
In their lives. And we know that left-wing
They just
people
think they
have
have it.
much higher rates of mental illness than do right-wing people, but
Well, I've seen this study before. I'm not sure if it means that being left-wing leads to mental illness, or that maybe people who have mental illness recognize that the fallacy of like just everyone just get over it, just be happy. If they go see mental health, maybe they realize, oh, hey, you can't just get over things all the time. You can't just get past things. You actually sometimes need a system to help you and support you, a safety net around you, someone to actually help you get better. That might lead people to be left-wing. I could totally see that. I don't know why he thinks. Does he think like you being a Democrat means you're crazy or something? I don't know.
Human beings gravitate towards struggle. We need something to fight for. We need something to conquer. And when you've had everything
Conquer.
handed to you,
Look at this like language. Black people getting rights, people not being in detention centers at the border. To him, that's conquering. Just keep in mind his language.
you
Trying
almost
to
have
paint
to
a
create
picture here for us.
your own struggle by convincing yourself that you're part of like freaking Dumbledore's army, but you're not. You're not part of Dumbledore's
Oh god,
army.
he's reading theory. He's reading Harry Potter theory. He's the ultimate liberal.
That's why there's so many rich white kids out there doing this, especially the affluent white liberal females, the dregs of society, the single greatest destructive force in the history of global politics.
Is the white woman? Oh no. They're so scary, dude. Remember when there was a million people at the women's march and it literally did nothing? Remember that? Remember when it didn't actually have any political gains because it ends up it didn't do anything because of all the power they have? Oh fuck, I don't know.
on the one hand, you've got Black Lives Matter. And it's a lot easier for Black Lives Matter and a lot more profitable for them to come out and say, hey.
Profitable? Who's making profits from Black Lives Matter? Like the thousands of protesters who show up in all cities across the country? Are they like getting a check or something?
These issues that we're dealing with have nothing to do with choices that are made by Black Americans. And it has everything to do with white people and white people being racist. And if you disagree, it's because you're racist. Oh, by the way.
Choices? We went over this in the last video, but choices are influenced by the upbringing you have, the choices that are presented to you. If your choices are like unemployment or maybe doing illegal things in order to have a house, or like not even a house, just like to make rent, if those are your choices, you're gonna pick the less bad one, which is starving. Like, what world does he live in? Does he like think like there's like a fucking like accounting firm on every corner of every city in America just hiring people all the time, and regardless of whether or not you like graduated high school or were taught like proper things in kindergarten, you'll get a job? Does he genuinely believe this? Is John Doyle like living? Wait, he's projecting so hard. He's talking about how the people who support Black Lives Matter don't know what struggle is, when he lives in this fantasy world where everyone can just make the perfect choice of like, oh, I should just code, just learn to code, forehead. And if everyone did that, we'd all be good. If you work a minimum wage job, just quit, get a better job. Just get a better job. That's the world that he lives in.
Asserting that problems facing
Projecting.
Black Americans are largely the result of choices made by Black Americans is less rude than asserting that they are caused by an entire race of people because they're racist.
Whoa, okay, hold on. He's mischaracterizing like at least the sensible position, what I would hold, which is the sensible position because I'm sensible. The position that people tend to hold when they talk about Black Lives Matter and like racial inequality isn't that every white person just hates black people and are trying like overtly to keep them down. It's that the systems have been set up in such a way so that white people tend to have power, and it tends to continue to like continue itself. It just continues. So, like generational wealth. White people tend to be in hiring positions, and they tend to hire more white people. Black people don't have as many role models in certain industries, so they tend to go into them less. That sort of thing is what we tend to mean. We're not blaming all white people for this. I'm white. I'm not guilty of oppressing black people. I assume most people in this chat, if you're white, you're not fucking guilty either. Anyone who's here. So we're talking about the system generally. We're not talking about every individual white person's racist. What a straw man.
Even less human. In other words, if I'm a dick for saying that the reason black men are more likely to go to prison than white men is because they're more likely to commit violent crimes, then you're an even bigger...
We don't disagree with that. Most people on the left understand that black people tend to commit more crime. The thing that we get hung up on is why. If a portion of the population is committing more crime, that's a pretty big deal. Is it because they have less opportunity? Is it because they're put in positions where they're more likely to fail in the world? These are the things that like the data supports and backs up. So when he sits here and says, "Oh, they just make worse choices," well, that doesn't really tell you anything about the world. It doesn't make much sense.
bigger dick for saying it's actually just because white people are all racist. But anyways,
Well, no,
so on the one
it's not
end, you
why.
have Black Lives Matter, and they can make a lot more money.
I'm
and
so
get a lot more
excited to
power.
hear him like destroy the straw man. It's gonna be so awesome. He's gonna tackle that fucking straw man to the fucking ground. He's gonna be flying fucking everywhere. He's gonna kill them all.
Because remember, they're Marxists, by completely and totally absolving black Americans from any responsibility for their actions, and instead placing the blame on white people, America, and police officers. And then on the other hand, you have people such as the white liberal women and the soy boys going along with the narrative because they have no meaning in their lives and they're insecure. A lot more money and get a lot more power, because remember, they're Marxists, by completely and totally absolving black Americans from any responsibility.
Well, why do you think Black Lives Matter people tend to be Marxist? It's true. Don't actually get it caught up. It is true that some Black Lives Matter people, especially people who like organize things, do tend to be socialists or Marxists, as they be called, because these people have always been at the forefront of civil rights movement. The civil rights movement in the 1960s had tons of black Marxists, because socialists tend to care about equality, which means you tend to see socialists at Black Lives Matter marches. Like, what does he think's happening? Like, this is some ploy by the great Marxists, like the USSR, who's been dead for 40 years, 30 years. Is that what he think's going on here? China? Is it China? Is it China, the great Marxist nation that still has like private ownership and private corporations? Is that what he thinks going on here? I don't know. Let's
for their actions, and instead placing the blame on white people, America, and police officers. And then
okay, white people? Not really. Maybe a little bit. Maybe just like a little bit. If you're not willing to identify the problem and you're white and you just are fine with your like the privileges that society has granted to you and you just ignore real issues, then yeah, I think you're complicit in a bad system. Do I think you're necessarily to blame? I don't know. You'd have to get into the details, but I think you're at the very least complicit. Police officers? Yeah, sure. I think the police system's pretty fucked up, and it doesn't really encourage police officers to be the best police officers that they can be. If you're a good cop, you're basically a cop who's watching bad cops do bad things because you don't really have the power to stop it. And America, I mean, America's where this is happening, so sure. America is such a broad term, we'd have to talk. Does he mean like the concept of America? Does he mean the government? Does he mean the people? I don't know. When people say America, they mean different things.
On the other hand, you have people such as the white liberal women and the soy boys going along with
the soy boys. He's calling me out. I'm getting called out. I'm a soy boy. He's calling me out.
No meaning in their lives, and they're
I'm gonna go cry and eat my tofu.
Can't resonate with their self-perceived struggle. That is why women and weak feminine men are the most likely to virtue signal.
What? Okay, dude, chill out a little bit. It's the whams. The whammons are doing it.
If you are physically weak, you're high in agreeableness, then you need people to like you, because
he's like quoting the agreeableness memes.
If they don't like you, they're just going to walk all over you, and so they pathologically virtue signal so as to—
Wait, what is he talking about? It is so much easier to just not talk about racial issues. If I never posted anything about Black Lives Matter on like Facebook or something, no one would know. No one would care. I could just ignore the problems. That's the issue, is people are complicit in it. It actually takes far more strength to come out against this shit than it does to just be complicit in it. If you don't have to worry about it and you just don't worry about it, then you're complicit. That's way easier if you're like high in agreeableness or whatever the fuck he's talking about.
Advertise themselves as the most noble, most virtuous people in society, literally as this sort of like quasi-survival instinct to try to put themselves in the most optimal position possible. And so the reason I bring this up is because someone like me or you would have a very difficult time having an honest conversation with these people, because they don't want—
John Doyle, if you want to have an honest conversation with me anytime, I know I'm way smaller than you. I know I'm just a drop in the ocean, but you can have a talk with me anytime, and I swear to God, I will be honest with you. I swear on the Bible. I swear on the American flag, okay? Anything that you want, I will talk to you about.
To leave their mobs, and because any concession on their part would require a consideration of the fact that they're not actually that virtuous, and what they're doing isn't actually that groundbreaking, let alone making any progress towards actually—
Well, I mean, I don't know when this video came. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, but these have been the longest running protests in the history, at least race related in the history of the nation, haven't they? They're the most widespread and longest lasting. Pretty groundbreaking.
The problems. You would literally have to get one of these people one-on-one and probably a little bit drunk for them to really tell you what's on their mind.
I'm
Virtually
never
everything
getting
else
drunk with
is
John
just
Doyle.
public
That's
display.
terrifying.
And that's actually pretty dangerous for people like you and me because
Huh?
when you're that emotionally invested into something, because your entire sense of self is derived from it, you're not looking at the opposition as a human being who just
Huh?
happens to disagree with you. You're looking at them and everything that surrounds them as an enemy that has to be leveled and buried.
Whoa,
And we
what
are
the
just
fuck?
now
I
starting
don't
to
want to kill you, John Doyle. I think you're just say some really stupid shit and like calling you out. Listen, I don't want to bury you, okay? You're terrifying for different reasons, but I definitely don't think you should be killed.
see how dangerous that actually is. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon, unfortunately. And that's why one of the things I've been saying recently is conservatives really need to get away from this whole, wow, look at these crazy liberals, haha, so triggered, it's just a
Wait, this is like what he's doing, basically.
political disagreement. What, you don't want to sit down and have a conversation with me? You don't
Sounds
want
a
to have
little quiet. Let me
dialogue
turn him
with
up for
me?
you.
No, they don't. The ones in your neighborhood want you off their social media
Is that
friends
better?
lists, and the ones out there rioting in major cities want you dead. Do not think for a second that they would let someone like you or someone like me live in their utopian society. So
What? What the fuck? Is John like genuinely scared that like if we give black people more equality that what? What's he scared about? It will kill him? We're not gonna kill John. John, you're a goofball, okay? You're kind of weird and like you say some dumb shit, and I worry your audience takes you too seriously. But I'm not gonna kill you. No one's gonna kill you. You don't need that rifle behind you. You don't need that M1 Garand. You're good, dog.
it might be time to stop sharing infographics on Facebook.com about how many people have been killed by communist regimes and realize that you
Okay. Oh shit. He's doing the fucking meme. The quadrillion people killed by communism. The bajillion, the Brazilian people who've been murdered in communists. We can debunk that later, but also I don't know how this is relevant. Black Lives Matter doesn't want a communist utopia. I mean, maybe some members do, but the cited goal is black equality. Is that communism? Is that doing a communism?
would be in that statistic. But it's not going to be the government that kills you. It's going to be mobs of people. They're going to show up at your home. You're going to try your best to pick off a few with your AR-15.
He's LARPing. John's role playing. He thinks this is Call of Duty Zombies. He thinks he gets to board up the fucking windows, stand there with his little army hat on his head, and his fucking M1 Garand. He gets loaded. I bet it's fucking loaded. And he gets to shoot zombies. Except by zombies, he means protesters who care about equality. Weird, but okay.
$1,200 AR-15 that you customized and built yourself, but at the end of the day, you are going to be killed, and the media will ignore it, and the police won't be there to help you, and the government will do absolutely nothing about it.
What the fuck is he talking about? I think he's like deluded. He's like, this is weird. This is crazy to me.
And I thought that we'd get into this a little bit later, but it fits better now, which is that whenever conservatives are discussing who's really the enemy, whenever we talk about, hey, off the record, what's really going on here? Who's really in charge? We still only identify the enemy within the approved frame. Like, I get emails every day from
Who's the enemy, John?
Attention people with links to these forums talking about how World War II never ended. John, the Nazis have taken over the U.S. government. Or, John, wake up, look at Antifa. They're fascists. And it's like, I get that. I get what you're saying. I don't like...
What? Like Hydra? Hydra has taken over the government? This is like a Marvel movie?
Nazis, I don't like fascists, they don't like me. But if we were really fighting those guys, we'd have no idea about it. You know what I mean? Like, my grandpa served alongside General Patton in World War II, which is something I'm very proud of. So by the time I was 3 years old, I could tell you that the Nazis are the bad guys. By the time any American leaves middle school, they can tell you that the Nazis are bad and that fascism is bad. And of course that's true, but it really makes you wonder why we aren't...
Anytime you have to start a sentence with fascism is bad, but it makes me really worried about what you're going to say next.
Taught the same about communists. Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, Fidel Castro, or any one of these
a lot of those people are pretty fucking terrible.
Millions upon millions more than Nazis or fascists, and I have to stress...
Wait, no. I don't think Stalin killed more people than Hitler. Everyone says that, but if you include all the World War II deaths, that's not true. Or is that like because I've seen like the how many people Stalin has killed statistic, and that tends to include Nazi soldiers who were killed invading Russia. It's not true. I mean, yeah, Stalin was a pretty fucking bad. I'm not like bad person. I'm not here to defend him, but let me be honest. Like, not lie.
This is not a defense of those, obviously. The point is that for whatever reason, we're taught that Nazis and fascists are the worst things ever because
They are.
of mass murder and unprecedented and incomprehensible
Yep.
human rights violations. But we learned virtually nothing about the same and even vastly worse crimes coming from communists. And the reason for that is that two of the biggest features of fascism were that it was opposed to communism and that it was nationalist. And so
That is true. I'm actually surprised John isn't gonna say like the Nazis were communist. I hear that a lot.
for conservatives such as myself who are opposed to communism and who believe that America should put the interests of her
Oh
people
god. Is John saying he's a fascist? Oh fuck.
first, well, now we can be accused of being fascists. And we've already learned that the worst thing that you can be is a fascist.
True. 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 He's right.
And so if you're a communist, you're in a nice little position now because no one knows anything about you or your history. And
Yeah, nobody knows anything about communism. It wasn't like we had a Cold War. What is he talking about? What? Yeah, wait, have you guys heard of this really little like hipster country? I mean, it's like it's an indie country. You probably haven't heard of it. I know all their albums. The Soviet Union. Do you guys know what that is? I mean, is that what he's talking about, or does he mean like? Because I mean, I'd agree. I feel like a lot of people weren't educated about like Marx and like other like Engels and all these other communist thinkers. I agree that like socialism as like taught by actual socialists who believe in equality is under taught, but I have a feeling that's not what he's talking about here.
things that would make it harder for you to succeed, such as an opposition
I like
to
the face I
communism
paused
or
on
a love of
earlier.
America, can now be labeled as fascism. And we all know that fascism is bad, but communism isn't. In fact, it sounds rather nice. A society where everyone is equal, state
That's
enforced equality.
state enforced equality, and that's not really communism, but okay. I mean, communism tends to be a stateless, classless society. Stateless tends to be an important word there. But John is gonna nitpick here, so to be fair, I don't think John's capable of understanding.
Wait,
That's a little mean, but it's true.
duh! That seems so obvious. Why didn't we think of that right off the bat? And that's why I hate the term radical left. Trump and a lot of
Wait, why doesn't wait? So does John support us? A stateless, classless society if it's obvious? Cool.
other conservative figures have used
Wait,
this term.
they take away your guns? No, no. Don't take the guns. No one should disarm the workers. Any attempt should be resisted. You know, Mark said that. Like, fuck that. Guns are cool.
A lot. And that term needs to be emphasized as a modifier. Like, we need to emphasize that we're not talking about the radical left as separate from the rest of the left. We need to emphasize that the left in general has gone completely radical. And notice how
You know how John says everybody calls him a fascist and how that's ridiculous, but then turns around and says everybody on the left is a communist? That's a fun one.
no one cares. Far right. Right-wing extremist.
Wait, yeah, those are scary. Are they not to John? Wait, is that not scary to John? Is he not scared of far right extremism? Well, probably not. It won't affect him. He's got his M1 Garand to fight anyone off. Anyone comes up to John fucking Doyle's house. I got my fucking M1 Garand. You know, it's only got 5 fucking rounds in it, but that's enough for you fucking punks. Modern day Nazis don't exist, stupid? Yeah, apparently. I don't.
But on the left, nobody panics because it's all part of the plan. Show me
The
some.
plan. Whose plan? Can I have a copy of the plan? I think I missed the memo. As someone who's pretty far left, I haven't received the memo. Maybe they just like mixed up the mailing address when I moved. Like maybe it's at my old house or something. I don't know. I haven't gotten this year's copy.
Someone on the left who has disavowed the rioting and the destruction. Anyone in politics or in the media, show me one. And the reason you can't show me one is because they're perfectly fine with it. Maybe they don't want to be the ones out there on the front lines getting tear gassed or beating people half.
You know, I've been to a few protests. I've been to them. Okay, it gets a little rowdy there. But the reason I support the protest is, I thought conservatives tended to agree with this, and I hope John Doyle is a conservative that would agree with this, although he obviously isn't. When people's rights aren't respected, when people aren't given the proper equality of opportunity, and you have asked nicely, like taking a knee on the football field, and you're ridiculed for that, what's the other option you can do? Like, what do you do if you live in a society that hasn't listened to peaceful requests for equality in decades? People are gonna get fucking mad. Yeah, maybe they shouldn't destroy property, maybe. But like, are you gonna, like, if people are asking or at this point demanding equal rights, I feel like that's pretty fair. So yeah, I support that because I care about people's rights. Unlike the virtue signaling John Doyle, who doesn't and will just say he cares about rights while constantly advocating for the revocation of them.
To death, but they agree with the ends, and so the means are justified. That's why liberals like Dave Rubin, Elon Musk, and Joe
Rogan. Oh yeah, well-known liberal Dave Rubin and Elon Musk, the far left Elon Musk,
are being adopted by the right as figures. They're liberals.
Well, okay, first of all, Elon Musk has always been on the right. First of all, Dave Rubin is pretty far on the right at this point. He always has far right guests on. He talks to PragerU founder Mr. PragerU. I actually forget his real name. We're gonna go with Mr. Prager. Mr. PragerU. But like Joe Rogan, I don't think's right wing. I think Joe Rogan just has like some right wing guests on. I wish he was a little more selective in his choices, but that's it.
Have rejected the radicalization of the left, but they're still liberals fundamentally, which just goes to show how far things have gone in this country, like towards the left. And that's why this whole strategy on the right.
Oh yeah, he's classical gay liberal. Not right. I forgot. Hates identity politics, but brings up his identity in every conversation he's ever been in.
Well, Antifa are the real fascists, or the left is using Nazi tactics, is so utterly self-defeating because you're—
What Nazi tactics? Oh yeah, that's right. The detention centers that the left has propped up and started pushing people into. Wait, those are border camp, and the right defends those. Well, not those ones. We're talking about the Antifa camps that are totally real. Was Chaz one of those? I don't know what he's talking about here.
With their moral framework, you're accepting their TOS. You're agreeing with them that the worst thing ever is fascism.
The left-wing TOS,
which they only spread because it distracts people from what they're doing, and it makes you, a normal conservative, seem like a Nazi. And then you think you can like beat them at their own game? Do you think that you can go to Portland and tell the people torching the city, well, you know, you guys are actually acting—
Wait, is this guy advocating against the marketplace of ideas right now? Wait, is John Doyle actually saying the marketplace of ideas doesn't work? Sick. I've been saying this for a long time. I'm glad we can agree on something.
Quite a lot like Mussolini's black shirts. Maybe if you sat down with me over some coffee, we could— no, they wouldn't listen to you. They wouldn't learn anything. You would learn—
Wait, he's literally, examples I use. Nazis don't listen to the marketplace of ideas. Fascists don't care about the marketplace of ideas. He agrees. Now, obviously, he's fucking stupid in that he thinks the left is fascist, which is clearly wrong, but we can continue this with the rest of the video. But I'm glad that he finally agrees. The marketplace of ideas doesn't work when there's bad actors in the space who don't give a fuck about finding the truth and just want to get power and spread their fucking shitty ideology.
Learn what it's like to have your ribs cracked by a dozen different pairs of feet. But these aren't fascist tactics. These are communist tactics. How do I know? Because the communists did the same thing, and because these people are communists or are acting on behalf of communists. To co-opt their language and—
Citation needed?
Their framework is to accept defeat. You are agreeing with their morality. And the problem with that is that their morality does not include your intrinsic value or dignity. They don't have—
What the fuck? Citation needed? John? Give me more sources that lie. Give me more sources that, when I read the conclusion, say the opposite of what you said. Please, I need something, John. Please, I beg you. John, please.
An unconditional view of humanity. Just look at their attitudes towards abortion. They believe that in order for a human being to achieve personhood, it isn't enough that they are a human being or that they're alive. They have to meet certain arbitrary criteria, whether it be—
Does he believe that a brain-dead patient has personhood? I mean, they're human, they're technically alive, but they're brain dead. They sit on a table and require life support. I'm curious if John Doyle would say this person's a person, like has personhood. Because when you're talking about morality, personhood is distinct from being a person. They're a human being, yes, but that's different than having personhood. Would he actually advocate that we should never take somebody off life support if they're brain dead? I'm actually genuinely curious, because if he says no, he says that we are okay to terminate that life, then his argument here doesn't make any sense.
Sentience or viability, etc. And what that means is that being a human and being alive is not enough to afford you your God-given human rights, especially because
Yep. Yeah, I agree. We do this all the time with brain dead patients. Brain dead patients don't have human rights. Brain dead patients aren't considered moral persons because even though they are human and technically alive, there's no way for them to be considered for morality. Like, would John genuinely argue here that a brain dead person should never be terminated? We should have them on life support for the indefinite future, regardless of what anyone says? Even if his family is like, no, we should terminate him. Well, no, it's not your decision. He has human rights. He should sit here on this table for the rest of ever on life support. Does he really believe this?
they don't believe in God or objective morality. And so basically what it comes down to is a subjective view of human value where those in power decide whether those not in power get to live based on what is convenient to maintaining their status. And
that's fucked up, and I would never advocate for this. And I don't think any left-wing person worth their weight would say that either.
This when they support a mother's decision to slaughter her child 4 weeks before he's born, since his existence is an inconvenience, or when past regimes have slaughtered the political opposition because their existence was inconvenience. It's all the same.
I mean, these are all fucked up. I totally don't agree with them.
Up in an anonymous pile of bones is that they don't have power yet, but they're getting there.
But so the strawmans of John Doyle will continue until morale improves.
Is that we have to abandon their moral framework, which is taught us from infancy through their control of education and media. We have to stop calling them the real fascists and start calling them what they are, which is militant, anti-white communists. Who are the real fascists?
I haven't heard a single anti-white thing. I'd love an anti-white argument from John Doyle.
No one. But these people are working on behalf of something with a much worse and more evil record than fascism. And they have a lot of power, and they're getting more of it every year. And again, this is not a defense of fascism. The point of
it's not a defense of fascism. It's just whataboutism in regards to fascism.
This is that the whole reason we have to focus on fascism is so people like me and you look bad when we stress.
Wait, listen, if focusing on fascism makes you look bad, maybe you should reconsider your values. Maybe you should reconsider the words you use. Maybe you should reconsider everything. If focusing on fascism makes you look bad.
Importance of things like putting America first or opposition to communism. And that's why I even have to clarify this in the first place.
Look, I'm not a fascist. I'm just a right-wing nationalist who really hates communism.
A couple more important things to note about the conservative moral strategy. We're going to get into racism as a political strategy in just a second, but
political
a really great
strategy
example between how the left uses morality versus how the right uses morality is the difference between their branding and their advertising. And this was a point made recently by my friend Darren Beatty during a podcast with Chris Buskirk of American Greatness, which you should listen to. But anyways, the point is one of the quintessential emblems of the American right is the Gadsden flag, the famous "Don't Tread on Me" flag.
Yep, what about it?
Many of us probably have had one hanging on display at some point or another, and what that flag means...
Nope, that's kind of cringe.
...is, of course, leave me alone. I come in peace, basically. It's dating back to the American Revolution, and the coiled rattlesnake represents a willingness to defend oneself if necessary. It's basically saying, I don't want to attack you, but if you attack me, then, I'm going to hit you back.
Yeah, I mean, I actually support that for the most part. Now, if he said things that actually reflected what the flag's supposed to represent... I'd hang that flag, fuck it. But no, it never does. That's never the case.
Like if you were to step on a rattlesnake and get bitten as a result. Now, what we found out as conservatives is that if you wait until you get stepped on to fight for your country and preserve everything that made it great, you'll end up fighting back at a total disadvantage because you...
Oh. So don't wait until bad things happen to you. Assume the bad things that you make up are gonna happen. And start attacking immediately. That doesn't sound weird at all.
been crushed with the weight of 70 years of policy that is antithetical to your values. Virtually the entire
70 years. So he's talking about 50s? What happened in the 50s? The 60s? Was he talking about civil rights? The 40s? Is he talking about the New Deal? I'm actually curious what he's talking about.
entire media and academic establishment and the vast majority of corporate America and the ruling class. And now you're standing up. You're brushing yourself off like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. You just made yourself a big mistake there.
Oh my god. Oh, I'm cringing. Oh, Don, you're not that cool, dude. Oh my god, I actually got goosebumps. That made me cringe. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Pal. No, they didn't. You did. You made the mistake. You were unresponsive while they took your country away from you because you were operating under the insane assumption that something as great as America could be preserved with a handshake. You were a mighty...
He hates the marketplace of ideas. John used to be the good guy, but you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
rattlesnake. You were the best in the world, and you watched them begin to dismantle your country.
Who's them? Keep saying them. The left? The communists? It's the communists, isn't it?
And you
It's
said,
the communists.
hey, knock it off or else I'll bite you. And they were like, let's equip ourselves a bit better before we go all out. And so now what's happening is they control literally all of the relevant infrastructure in the country.
Wait, the left? The left controls? Wait, is it talking about the left? The communists? The Antifa? The anti-fascists? The black people? What? Who? I mean, I'm pretty sure Republicans control most of the government, and most CEOs are Republican, and the more rich you get, the more Republican you are. I'm not really sure what he means by the infrastructure. Who's they? This is so weird.
And you, the rattlesnake, are just waking up to this. But before you can even get yourself in striking position, they just come at you with a 10-foot tree pruner and just cut your stupid rattlesnake head off. You're no longer a threat to them. Now you compare this to the recent branding on the left.
Yeah, that metaphor makes a lot of sense, John.
And the moral imperialism that they have. They've been saying things like white silence is violence. And what that statement...
Yeah, sure, it is. If you're a white person who is okay with the system that's violent because it doesn't affect you, then you're complicit in violence. Yeah, I agree with that.
It means is if you don't fight alongside us, you're bad and you are the enemy.
I guess, sure, but because bad things are happening and we need to fight back against them.
It is akin to violence. And if you look at this purely from the perspective of rhetorical strategy, which is something that the left is vastly better at doing than the right, it's a powerful...
I highly disagree. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I super disagree. Remember when Obama tried to pass the most mediocre healthcare reform? Hey, maybe we should have people have health insurance as a requirement, and then people with pre-existing conditions, they don't have to be kicked off insurance. People phrase that as death panels, as if that's not what an insurance company already is. So I think the right's far better at rhetorical strategy than the left. Just my thoughts.
Message because it asserts itself. It's saying this is correct. It is imperative that you not only agree, but that you also support us, because otherwise you're a bad person and you're complicit in violence. And so when you compare that to something like, hey, just don't tread on me. Do whatever you want, man. It's all good. Just don't tread on me, do whatever though.
I mean, both are pretty loaded. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of loaded to say white silence is violence, even if it's true. Because the implication is if you're silent, you're committing violence, or at the very least complicit in violence. Whereas don't tread on me is saying anything that he's talking about culturally is treading. I guess if you care about black equality, you're treading on John Doyle somehow. They're both loaded. It's just really weird that he sees it for one side but not the other.
It's easy to see why the left wins. You look at what's happening in your country. You know it's wrong. Maybe you're not too sure about things like fiscal policy or foreign policy, but you know that you are correct on American exceptionalism.
Ooh. American exceptionalism is such a yikesy term. Like, because if you really know what that means, it means that America can basically do no wrong and is better than every other country, just like inherently. It's not that America is the best country, even. It's just like America is inherently better than other countries. That's a really weird nationalistic like take.
The realities of biology and the value of human life.
The
importance
reality of biology. What does that mean? I feel like I know what he's trying to code here. He's trying to talk about trans people. No one rejects biology. I mean, I just assume that's what he means because that's what most people who are right wing say. But I don't know. They're such loaded terms.
Preserving the innocence of children.
Preserving the innocence of children. I don't even know what that one is. This guy like an anti-porn person? I don't know.
America, which means preserving its culture and its heritage. You know that. These are not up for debate. They're the very foundation of
what? So these aren't up for debate. Then so how do we determine if these are true? We just assume they are a priori? These are like just John Doyle's assumptions in the world, and anything that contradicts this is inherently wrong because he says so? Because feels over reals? What?
Of our country and of our way of life. And given that, you have to defend them with the same aggression and drive that the left is using to destroy them.
Bro, this is super fascist
Fox
talk.
News and making jokes.
This is like some shit the Nazis would say. Let's just flip America with Germany. So there's German exceptionalism. Everything Germany does is better than anything else that any other country does. And we know these are basic, right? Like, these are basic truths. The sanctity of children, the truth of biology. These aren't up for debate. You can't take these from us. These are true. And we can't wait for people to come knocking on our doors. We can't wait for the mobs to come to our house and start ripping us apart. No. We have to go and fight them before they can. Like, that's super fascisty language. Whether or not John recognizes it, this is really fashy talk. This is really weird.
Jokes about, well, this is what happens when everyone gets a participation trophy. No, you actually have to be active now. We don't have time for anything else anymore. You have to defend America with the same energy, drive, and confidence that the left is using to destroy it. Otherwise, we lose.
Right, the left is destroying America. Destroying America. But keep in mind, this is some really bold language for someone who claims he's not evoking weird language. This is self-defense. Yeah, I don't know what losing looks like. To me, it just means black people have more equality of opportunity, right? They're not systemically discriminated against by the police. But I don't know what losing to him looks like.
That's why we've been losing. We know that we're correct, but being correct isn't enough. You actually have to fight. No more, don't tread on me. We're replacing that with, actually, I will tread on you. As a matter of fact, I think I will tread on you.
Holy fuck.
Because you've been treading on us for decades now, and I'm not exactly a fan of channel surfing between, hey, look, we're abusing children, but it's...
Netflix show features a 10-year-old trans kid as a top in sexual terms? That's weird. I've never heard of this. We'd have to look into that. That sounds really yikesy. Should we look into this? Because I feel like this is like really weird, and if it's true, I'd probably be against it. Let's look it up. Netflix show features a 10-year-old top. Wait, what is this website? National File. Exclusive. Jill Biden's ex-husband exposes Joe's adulterous affair. Lies and campaign bribery. Better to be a dictator than gay? What is this weird website? Right, yeah, it's not that he's trans. Right, it's the fact that they're described as a top. Black man executes white child in broad daylight. Like, Kansas BLM leader Bar... Oh, well, you probably can't see it, but I'll read it and I'll zoom. Where'd it go? I don't know. Point is, let's take a look at the actual article. Netflix premiered a new show co-created by drag queen RuPaul called Aging the Queen, where a 10-year-old accompanies a drag queen to perform in mostly gay clubs around the country. In one scene, the prepubescent child is referred to as a top. Okay. That seems wrong, but like, wait, this isn't the same one. Hold on. RuPaul. I have to like look at the actual thing. Okay, let's see. Okay. Oh, here we're in the middle of a huge round. It's gonna be a major. Here you go, Eddie. Oh, Ruby girl, the birds at the bar. Are you hungry? I am. Take me. Come on, let's go. Okay, follow me. First cut I ever met. That's a top. Oh yeah, it's like a little joke. It's a little inappropriate. I'd agree with that. But like, is this the left? Like, but I can even disagree with. That's a little weird of a joke. But like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Yeah, probably shouldn't have made that joke. I can agree with that.
It's colorful and we're zany, so it's okay. And this just in, people who hate America burn down more great American cities and destroy more tributes to great American heroes.
Well, I mean, these are different topics. He's conflating like tons of shit. Like, I would never say that there's never been a wrong thing due to trans people, or I'd never say there's never been like a wrong gay person. That doesn't mean that like the bulk of the message of equality is like wrong. Like if a man made a weird joke about a woman, would we then say all men are canceled? Like, no.
No one has done a thing about it. Now, back to Trump is bad, the show. We need to practice moral imperialism. Not don't tread on me, but
moral imperialism? What a weird term. Moral imperialism. Just think about that for a second.
Abortion is murder. Not don't tread on me, but drag queen story hour is child abuse, etc.
Well, no, drag queen story hour is not child abuse. That's ridiculous. They're in like highly performative, like colorful costumes essentially, and it's like fun for children. There's nothing inherently sexual about drag.
You get the point. It's not like we're just arbitrarily deciding morality and enforcing that. It's not our morality. It's objective morality as defined by God, and that's the fundamental difference. We're serving God.
Objective morality is defined by God? What? Dog, I'm pretty sure, like, Jesus didn't say anything about America. Like, what? What? Like, oh yeah, I remember Leviticus 13:37. America, ye old faithful, keep America great again.
They are militant anti-white communists, and that's the other thing. This is something I know we're all curious about because it affects a lot of us, but for some reason, very few people on the right will talk about this, and that is the question of why does the left hate white people? Why do they hate white people?
I don't. Can we press one in chat? Well, I feel like if I say press one in chat if you hate white people, everyone will say one as a joke. So go ahead if you really want. But no, we don't hate white people.
Not interested in proving to you that these people hate white people. If you don't understand that...
Wait. Hold on, I'm gonna replay that. If you just listen carefully. Hold on. That was the funniest shit I've ever heard.
And that is the question of why does the left hate white people? Why do they hate white people? And I'm not interested in proving to you that these people hate white people.
He's not going to tell us why the left hates white people, but trust me, they do. And if you don't know, you're actually stupid. It's just a feeling, you know? I was actually waiting to like hear the reasons. This whole video, we're like 17 minutes in. We've been here for like 50 minutes. Alright, well, I guess we can end the video here. No, we'll continue. It's too funny.
If you don't understand that by now, then you should open your eyes. They're calling for all white people to be killed.
When is it okay to kill whites? Whoa. When is it okay to kill whites? That sounds yikesy. Let's take a look. What? Did he use a headline from a conservative news site? Like an opinion piece from a conservative news site to try to justify his claim that the left wants to kill white people? Is that what just happened? in order to be equal, in order to be liberated, some white people might have to die. That's probably true, depending on what we're talking about. White people cannot be ignorant of racism, their own or anyone else's. I agree, and that black people who assume that whites are educable on racism are fools. What? I don't say that. Puts down different black theorists, including Martin Luther King, for actually thinking that white people can be regarded as reasonable. If this guy actually said this stuff, then he sounds kind of radical, and I probably wouldn't agree with him. And not like radical in a good way.
This is Ready News Review.
Who's Dr. Tommy Curry?
Independent voice. Rob Ready.
Now it's time for my good friend, Dr. Tommy Curry. Every Thursday,
Professor of Philosophy.
Dr. Tommy Curry of Texas A&M. Dr.
University of
Tommy Curry,
Edinburgh.
how are you, sir?
Not bad, sir. How you doing today?
Great.
So today I want to talk about killing white people in context.
Let's do it.
Let's hear it.
All right, so over the last 20 years, black people have allowed white academics, white liberals, and I don't know if you saw the recent movie Django Unchained, the actual history of black civil rights struggle and black slave insurrections. What we have today is a situation where the symbols of king and peaceful white progressives have become the hallmarks of the black civil rights struggle.
This is true. This is actually the truth. This is true. Martin Luther King was not the only civil rights idea at the time. He wasn't even the most prevalent in a lot of cases. It is true that we are taught a whitewashed version of the civil rights movement.
Struggle. I mean, we saw this with people like Skip Gates when Obama won the election, saying that even all of our slave foreparents who were enslaved and stolen from Africa, all of the suffering, dying, and deaths that we had during the civil rights movement have all accumulated in Obama himself, right? And what that does
That's
is
a little ridiculous and kind of demeaning, but let's continue.
Puts a public relations face on the history of enslavement. It puts a popular face on the suffering of African descended people, and it puts a smile, a persona from black people that we can, in fact, talk about American racism without mentioning the threat of violence or social revolution at all. Now, 2 weeks ago, Jamie Foxx made a joke about how great it was for him to be able to kill all the white people in his new movie. And I saw it, and he's right. Practically every white person in that movie dies a very violent and well-deserved death.
So this is, I don't know what movie this is actually.
For their participation in the enslavement of African descended people. But the problem I have with that statement and it using the context of Django is that it's a fantasy where the deaths of white people are really just an entertaining spectacle. It's something that didn't really happen. It's not like black people had that type of opportunity under enslavement. And today what you see is a backlash from white conservatives on one hand who are offended, saying that Jamie Foxx is racist, and white liberals on the other hand who are saying that, well, this is not productive if you ever talk about killing white people, and putting the burden back on black people who have actually suffered these type of horrors, saying, no, you can never have a political conversation about the killing of white people, because that in itself is evil, is non-productive, is nationalistic. Only evil black nationalists do that, right? And I think that a lot of times black people buy into this as well. Like, what I'm surprised about is that I've seen no black public intellectual come out and actually address the issue of violence or social revolution or radical self-defense by black people historically. So right now, black people simply buy into the idea that, oh, it's entertainment, or, oh, you know, violence.
I don't disagree with anything he said so far. If you have a group of people, and this isn't every white person, but like let's say you have white people in positions of power who hold down another group of people and don't let them have rights, then the idea that they can't act back in self-defense is ridiculous.
Against white people was only the ideas of the Black Panthers. But in reality, we've had people from Nat Turner to Robert F. Williams, who was the father of the radical self-defense movement that inspired Black Panthers, and he wrote the book Negro with Guns that thought about killing white people as self-defense. Now remember that these black people
as self-defense, yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean you can go around just killing white people. I assume if he means that, that's ridiculous. But the idea that like if white people are genuinely like oppressing you, and this was especially true historically, which is what we're talking about, then why wouldn't they be able to have self-defense?
People were actually in a world very much like ours today, where white vigilantism against black people, murder, state violence were all deemed normal. This was how you preserved American democracy. This is what Ida B. Wells talks about. You lynch black people because they're an economic threat to poor whites getting businesses. You lynch black people to show black people that they can never be equal, so they will never challenge you. They will never pursue politics. They will never pursue the right to vote. So when we have this conversation about violence or killing white people, it has to be looked at in kind of this historical term. And the fact that we've had no one address like how relevant and how solidified this kind of tradition is for black people saying, look, in order to be equal, in order to be liberated, some white people may have to die. I've just been immensely disappointed because
yeah, I mean, if you have people who are going to lynch you and you fight back, that sounds like self-defense. I don't disagree with this.
What we look at week after week is the natural catastrophe after catastrophe. catastrophe where black people, black children are still dying. And we are front row, we're front and center when it comes to white people talking about their justification for owning assault weapons and owning guns to protect themselves from evil black people and evil immigrants. But then when we turn the conversation back and says, does the black community have a need to own guns? Does the black community have a need to protect itself? Does the black individual have a need to protect itself from police officers? We don't have that conversation at all. Now, we see
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything this person's saying, unless he says something radical in the last minute and a half that I wouldn't agree with.
To be killed. They're saying that all white people are inherently racist.
Wait, hold on, chill. Go back a second.
Calling for all white people to be killed.
All white people to be killed. That's what he said with this headline. Did anyone get that from the clip we just listened to? Because I certainly didn't.
They're saying that all
won't fire professor who called for killing white people. Okay. We're going to do this one too. Texas A&M won't fire professor who called for killing white people. Washington Examiner. No idea what this is. I like to look at the bias of the publication. This looks like a basic news site. So maybe this is a crazy professor. Those exist. Calling for white genocide. This is a very academic term, different than what most people think it means. Wait, is this the same fucking dude? This is the same dude. He's using source of the same dude? This is the same fucking dude. You're just gonna use one dude for all your examples? Oh, this is the agenda. This is it. It's Tommy Curry. This guy. This professor. This is the professor that I missed my memo from. I'm sorry, Tommy. Can you just send me another one through my mail, Or email works too. You can fax it. Really, it's up to you. Just give me the memo because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing as like a leftist who hates white people. So can I just get that in the mail? Do you guys know what white genocide is? So white genocide is a term coined by... Oh, wait. I'm getting confused for a second. He called for white genocide? Wait. He didn't fucking call for white genocide. Sorry, white genocide is the fucking white supremacist talking point. I always get that confused with what's that fucking term on the academics use for like destroying whiteness as a concept because we should get rid of race in general. I forget, but I always get white genocide confused with that. No, he didn't fucking call for white genocide. What are you fucking talking about? We listened to the podcast. He didn't say he said in order to be equal, in order to be liberated, some white people may have to die because of self-defense, because in order to secure your rights, you have to fight back against the people oppressing you. It's not a call for white genocide. Just like white people going around, as he said in the podcast, like lynching people, lynching black people, is that black genocide? If it is, then it sounds like people who are getting genocided have a right of self-defense. So I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about. I don't know what the fuck this article's talking about. Who the fuck wrote this? Ron Meyer? Was that the guy who wrote the other fucking thing? Rod Dreher? Same fucking name almost, but no, it's not the same fucking person. Oh my god, John Doyle, I literally think he Googles leftist thinks killing white people is okay into a search bar and then pulls up the fucking first 3 articles that sound kind of what he agrees with and then throws it in the YouTube video.
All white people are inherently racist.
Wait, hold on. USC professor. We're gonna go through all these because there's nothing I like more than proving John Doyle wrong.
That all white people...
USC professor calls for Holocaust against all white people. Let's fucking look it up. No idea. Written by Sean. Fucking things in the way. Whatever. Sean ADL something. Okay, here we go. News Punch, where mainstream fears to trend. Let's take a look at this one. President Trump congratulates QAnon supporter on Republican victory when BLM Chicago writer shouts, "I can't breathe," as she loots designer clothes store. Kamala Harris blasted Jeffrey Epstein's law firm, then quietly took money. This is clearly biased, so let's read it. The University of Southern California employs a professor, Charlie H.F. Davis, a self-described black identity extremist, says whiteness must be destroyed. What does that mean? What does whiteness mean? Is this what I was talking about earlier, where you want to kill the concept of being white so that there is an oppression from white people? Black Power salute of an extremely graphic Black Panther comic book, which shows black woman threatening to shoot a white pig with a gun. It's terrifying, I guess. Whiteness and white supremacy must be by any means destroyed. Is that what they're talking about here? White supremacy is pretty bad. Tweet praising white genocide. We're just like linking to all the far right news sites now. Haitian Revolution. The whites were massacred during the Haitian Revolution. That was a good thing indeed. I mean, do we not know what happened? I mean, yeah, it's probably bad to phrase it in racial terms, but people who oppress people through slavery, getting self-defense and act sounds like an okay thing. Maybe these phrasing could have been better. If violence produces violence, it necessitates it because it's all the state knows. What other choice do we have? Yeah, I mean, this guy sounds pretty like extreme. So he got one example of like a pretty extreme person saying they should have self-defense.
People are inherently racist. They're saying that white people are subhuman.
White people are subhuman. Trinity College. Oh, that sounds fucking fucked. I probably agree with this one being bad. Fuck, whatever. Let them effing die. Everything I've looked at with John Doyle has proven to be fucking incorrect. Let them effing die. Holy shit, fuck off. You need to die. Shooting of Steve Scalise. Past time for racially oppressed people who believe themselves to be white will not do. Put an end to the vectors. But they're struggling with logic, whiteness, and the white supremacy. Hashtag let them effing die. I mean, yeah, that's probably should have never been posted. Sounds pretty fucking terrible. Probably shouldn't have happened.
Teaching their children to not trust white children.
Professor in New York Times op-ed, I'll teach my children to be cautious. Distrust friendship with white people. Oh, interesting.
Children. They're saying that we should kill ourselves.
White professor calls all white people to mass suicide. What the fuck? Like, all these sound pretty fucked. I probably won't agree with any of these. These are motorcycles. I can't find this. Oh, whatever. It's fine. If they said this, I disagree with it. I'll just say that.
They're saying that you're a literal plague on the earth. And in case you couldn't tell, this is not rhetoric that is characteristic of good intentions. This is not rhetoric that suggests a longing for peace and equality and coexistence. They hate you, and it's because you're white. And you might be wondering, like, why would the left hate me because I'm white? Most of the radical leftists are white too. Like, wouldn't that mean that they'd hate themselves? Yeah, that's exactly what that would mean. And that is exactly the case.
I mean, maybe there's a few, but I don't think that's most people. I've never heard people say, fuck white people, you should all die. And most of these protests, when speakers say things, I've heard things like, we need white people to help us because people listen to white people more than black people. We can, like, use your privilege for good. That's the kind of shit that I hear at protests.
Wind the clocks back to what we were talking about earlier. What causes people to be leftists? Self-loathing, which leads them to hate other white people as well. We know that liberals are more willing to murder someone for the greater good if that person has a white-sounding name rather than a black-sounding one.
That sounds fucked. That's true, that's fucked.
We know that they believe that it is more plausible that black people are genetically superior to white people with regards to intelligence than would be the reverse case.
Weird.
Know that they believe non-white people should not have to pay more for home insurance due to living in a high-risk area, but are neutral about whether white people should, and we know that they would support censoring research.
We've looked at a lot of studies in the past and seem fake, but I mean, again, if the conclusion's real, I disagree with it. I'm also very skeptical anytime he quotes a study, though.
People are more intelligent, more than they would support censoring research showing the same of black people, and we know that they are the only group. White liberals are the only group who on the net prefer other racial groups to their own. And that's talking about in-group bias, which is something that we all have. It doesn't mean that we're bad people. It's just that we tend to have a bias towards people who look like us. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to act on that bias. I mean, there's even research.
Is his tongue blue?
that shows that you can develop in-group favoritism between groups of people by assigning them to different groups based on something as arbitrary as a coin toss. So it's pretty
I can't tell.
easy to make people get territorial and tribal like this. And statistically speaking, black people have the strongest in-group bias, followed by Asian people, Hispanic.
Why do you think that is? I mean, if you're forced to be in like a stratified, segregated community for a while, you probably will develop a stronger in-group bias that's taught than people who don't recognize that.
Hispanic people, and then finally non-liberal white people, and then liberal white people actually have a net negative in-group bias, which means they literally
He already showed this. I don't know why he's repeating it again.
have a bias against themselves because of who they are, and because the bias is so strong and contrary.
Like, John Doyle, I have some good fucking news for you, dude. I know my fucking videos are gonna be fucking long because they're gonna be this, but you don't have to get to the 40-minute mark. It's the 10-minute mark. You don't have to pad your videos.
It's what we'd expect and what is demonstrated by literally every other group of people. It's evident that white liberals seriously resent themselves, and it's because of who they are. It's because they're white people.
We didn't show that, but okay.
Maybe that's why they've also been found to show less sympathy towards
What a jump in logic.
poor white people after hearing leftist rhetoric about white privilege, while the sympathy towards poor black people stays the same. They have a
That could be pretty bad to an extent, but I mean, even poor white people do experience some level of white privilege, even if the being poor is probably a larger effect on their well-being.
bias against themselves, which we would typically just label as low self-esteem, which would also make sense because liberals have much lower self-esteem than do conservatives. And you can even shift people's political beliefs to the right by raising their self-esteem before giving them a political opinions quiz. So yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. None of this has to do with like the truth claims. Like, none of these are truth claims. He's just like vaguely gesturing at like personality analysis stuff as if it like proves his point. Maybe all of this is true. I have no idea, but maybe all of this is true. We'd have to go into each study and like actually look at the data, and I don't want to do that right now because I feel like that'd be a waste of time. But all of this that he's talking about could be true, and it would have no bearing on whether or not black people face systemic discrimination.
Given that what we know about them, like they basically hate themselves. They're more than willing to sell themselves out for whatever characteristic of themselves is currently on the chopping block. Oh, we hate America now? Well, I'm from America. I'm the worst. Oh,
What memo? Like, I'm still waiting for my memo from that black professor who brought up earlier.
we hate white people now? Well, I'm white. I'm the worst, etc. And there's also evidence to suggest that white guilt, or making people feel as though they've been given an unfair advantage over other people, is psychologically damaging even after controlling for age, sex, income, education, marital
Damn, that sucks. I mean, you probably shouldn't feel bad for having white privilege.
status, and also that
It's not something you can control. You're just born with it. Don't be guilty about it. Just recognize it's a real thing, and then that like other people have like don't get the same advantages you do. That's all I care about. I don't care if you fucking like fuck off. I don't want you like whipping yourself at the altar like crying because you're a white person. That's not helpful. If you actually care about like equality in the world, then go out and do something about it. Go to a protest. Go vote for people who tend to be in favor of those policies. Get involved in organizations that support equality among all people. You know, there's a lot of things you can do that don't involve self-flagellation.
it has increased over time as we put our children through schools and curriculums that have taught them to hate themselves. So we've got that established. Now we have to ask ourselves, given that the anti-white narrative is well underway, and given that so many white people are being taught to hate themselves for being white, and so many of them already do, like, we have to ask, what does this achieve? Like, what is the purpose of doing all this? What is to be gained by demonizing white people? Well, think about what the ultimate goal is first. The ultimate goal is to completely destroy America as we know it, or as we knew it, and transform it into a dystopian socialist country where those in charge have everything and all the power, and everyone else has nothing.
Oh. I didn't realize that. Today I learned the goal of Black Lives Matter is a socialist utopia? I don't remember what he said. Where the people at the top control everything. Like, you know, the socialist utopia where the 1% of people control like 99% of wealth, or whatever the fuck it is. Maybe it's like 90%. I forget the exact. 1% control. The rich 1% now control more of the country's wealth than at any time in the past 50 years. Is that the socialist dystopia that we read about? I don't know. not obviously 1%. You know what I mean? Like, that the socialist dystopia, like what we live in now, where like the people with the most have the most power at like a larger rate than ever before.
But before they can do that, they have to erode the foundations of this country, which have been there since the beginning, and in some cases even before the beginning. And they were put there by very smart and very strong and very good men, and they were intended to be preserved by future generations of those same men. And so fundamentally what it comes down to is, of those who built the country and of those who have the deepest roots in the country, the vast majority are white people. This is not a controversial statement. This is just...
What? How is that not controversial? Someone who's born in America and grew up in America has just as many roots, regardless of their race. And whoever the fuck he's talking about. Anyone who grows up here has just as many roots in America. What the fuck is he talking about?
The reality of American history. So to answer why do they hate white people, it's because the people who have the greatest incentive to preserve our country...
What? What the fuck is this dumb shit I'm hearing right now? White people have more of an incentive to preserve the country?
...are going to be the people who have the deepest roots here.
The
And
deepest
this doesn't mean that
roots?
people whose parents came here 40 years ago can't love America, or that they don't want to preserve America.
Sounds like what he's fucking... Wait, or that means they can't preserve America? That's what he's fucking saying. Don't lie to me, John. Don't fucking lie. That's what you're saying. You just said that.
It just means that because of the history of the country, the vast majority of the deepest roots in this country are going to be those of white people.
Wait, hold on. He doesn't mean white people. He means Anglo-Saxons. So if you're Italian... Wait, hold on. Does he not know that, like, slaves have been here longer than, like, most Italian Americans, or most Irish Americans, or most, like, Asian Americans, or most, like, fucking almost every other type of American besides Anglo-Saxon? By that argument, black people should be, like, the most patriotic, most conservative people. Because they were fucking brought over here, and they've been living here for fucking... Their ancestors were brought over here hundreds of years ago, before most ethnic groups. So what's he fucking talking about? Even his own logic doesn't make sense. In fact, I'd say there might be more black people who have the roots that he's describing than white people. Right? There might be more Anglo-Saxons than just like black people who are descendants of slaves. Or let me rephrase that. There might be more Anglo-Saxons whose ancestors came over here before slaves came over here. Maybe that's true, but not by like a huge amount. Most white Americans aren't just like pure English motherfuckers. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
And that's just because, historically speaking, this country was basically biracial. We were never diverse like the left claims. We had Northern European white people, and we had West African black people.
Oh, okay. So he recognizes this. So you'd expect the most conservative people to be West African black people and not just North European, like English people.
But there were lots more white people than there were black people. And so the strongest force...
Well, no, not white people, English people. Why are you conflating the two? Like, it's actually really important if you're going to make this weird argument.
...that these militant communists will face is going to be the force of the roots which are buried the deep.
The West African huge capitalists who own tons of, like, capital? Is that what we're talking about here? Because, I mean, a lot of black people support Black Lives Matter. A lot of white people do too. People whose slaves, whose ancestors are slaves, probably even support it more than people who weren't. This guy's logic makes no fucking sense.
...deepest in American soil, and the majority of those are the roots of white people. And again, this doesn't mean that non-white people can't love America, or that they don't want to preserve America.
Well, none of this makes sense, John. None of this does. You're fucking crazy.
That their families haven't done so for generations. Of course, that's all true. It's just to say that if the left can successfully demonize an entire race of people, they won't even have to go after the patriots of other races, because by that point, it'll be too late. Like, they'll have so much power that they can just completely crush their opposition.
These people hate America. Like,
I
I just like find it funny that like caring about equality means you hate America.
Coming to attend American universities from other countries, and they're talking about how evil America is, how America has to apologize for doing things
From other countries. I don't think these are mostly people from other countries. It seems like a lot of these people are like people who are born here, if they say shit like this.
Evil than their country or most other countries. about how, oh, America has to be more like my country. And it's like they've been here an entire semester or maybe even an entire undergraduate
Does he have an example? I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
education. And I think introspectively about how my roots go back in this country hundreds of years, the things that those people fought and died for and built to be passed on to future generations, including myself, not to be taken for granted, how my bloodline has been within a 250-mile radius of where I am right now since 1659. And it's like, yeah, over my dead body. But that's what the strategy is behind white hatred.
Weird flex, but okay.
And behind racism in general. Racism doesn't exist in contemporary America as much else than a political strategy. We're taught from
Dude is literally talking up a Red Scare about Asian exchange students. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I have no idea what this guy's fucking talking about. Like, he didn't say Asian Americans, but it's or not Asian Americans, Asian exchange students, but that's probably what he means. I'm not sure what else he would even like. Indian exchange. I mean, there's a few of those. Fair amount of Indian exchange students. That was talking about the Indian communists. I don't know.
infancy that we're racist or that our country is racist. Its institutions are racist. Its history is racist. How do we fix it? We don't. We replace it with something more progressive, more 21st century. With
Well, yeah, our history is racist. Often current day things can be racist too. Well, how do we fix it, John? What's your proposal? Give me something I can work with.
something more committed to equality and egalitarianism. This is all despite the fact that, legally speaking, the least privileged group of people in this country are straight, white, Christian, conservative men.
Wait, hold on. Straight, white, Christian, conservative men. Okay, legally speaking, straight. I have no idea what benefits gay people have over straight people. Is he talking about, like, oh, maybe he means like gay people in the federal government often get preferential in cases where their qualifications are the same as a straight person because there historically has been less gay people in I don't know. Is that actually true? I don't know if like there's affirmative action with gay people. There might be, but I don't know. So straight white, again, same logic. Straight white Christian. I have no idea what the Christian has anything to do with this. I have no idea. No idea what Christian has to do with anything. Why do people hate Christian people? I don't know. Is there a law that says you can't be Christian? Is there a law that says Christians, like Jews or Muslims, get preferential treatment? That we can't build churches, but we can build mosques? Like what? Wait, straight. What was the other ones he said? Threw a lot of his whole identity out there.
Its institutions are racist. Its history is racist. How do we fix it? We don't. We replace it with something more progressive, more 21st century, with something more committed to equality and egalitarianism.
That shit sounds kind of based. I want some equality, like egalitarian shit.
It's all despite the fact that, legally speaking, the least privileged group of people in this country are straight, white, Christian, conservative men.
Conservative? Is there like a law against conservative men? I don't even know what that means. And men, like, again, I don't know. This is such like virtue, like snowflake behavior. Oh, I'm the poor discriminated minority, even though everything data wise shows that that's definitely not the case. It's like he's just like crying over nothing.
Me and you, big guy, the forgotten gamers of America.
Oh God!
But none of that matters because they're.
I hate how fucking gamers were claimed as like this fucking right wing like fucking word. Fuck that. Gamers are based, okay? Don't take fucking gamers from me. I guarantee you, John, I'm more of a fucking gamer than you, okay? I could fucking beat you at any fucking game you fucking pick. I fucking guarantee it, okay? I'm way more fucking based at every fucking video game than your dumb fucking ass is, alright?
Their fixation on racism is not out of a commitment to justice. It's out of a commitment to victory and domination. If they actually cared about racism...
Yeah, I'll fucking 1v1 John Doyle. Fucking aim maps in CSGO any fucking day of the week.
They'd call out the overwhelming amount of anti-white racism that we see every day in our media and that we hear every day in our classrooms, but they don't.
Our classroom? I don't fucking hear that shit, but okay. I heard some pretty yikesy shit in my classrooms. I remember I had a American government teacher who had one of those cringe posters on the wall that said socialism is when the government takes your shit and gives people the milk they deserve, even though that has nothing to do with socialism. And I remember he gave us a quiz that was like the liberal versus conservative quiz. And one of the questions was the surveillance state, whether that was liberal or conservative. And the original answer was liberal was no surveillance state, but he crossed that out and then swapped it for some reason. And I thought that was the funniest shit.
because they actually endorse it themselves. And so conservatives need to understand that racist is not a real word with a real meaning. Racist just means shut up. That's all it means, virtually nothing more. But what conservatives like to do, because we've lost so much...
Yeah, racism has no meaning now, apparently.
The last few decades, that we get excited by even the smallest potential victories. So when someone calls us a racist, we go, now wait just a minute, I'm a racist? All right, why is that? Provide some evidence for your claim. And you've got this smug little look on your face because
John Doyle owning his getting drunk at parties and telling people to debate him on whether or not he's a racist. I bet he's a real fucking hoot at parties.
oh, you think you're winning, or you know, if they'll insult you.
He thinks he's like in a Yu-Gi-Oh fucking episode. Like, you've activated my trap card, and starts like citing like his fucking like fake studies. Did you actually know that the real racists are the left? You activated my trap card. I'm sending you straight back to the Shadow Realm.
You'll say, well, if you're insulting me, it's because you can't beat me. It's like, except they are beating you, and they've been beating you. And why is that? Because, well, you've ceded ground to them. You've accepted their moral framework because you think that you can outfox them within it, but you can't. The response to someone calling you a racist is not to debate them on whether or not you're a racist, because the second you do that, you lose. The conversation.
So first, he's not going to convince us that the left is racist. And second, you can't actually win a debate if someone calls you racist, because you'll lose every time. John Doyle, like, under his fucking, like, he needs a name plaque that just says, I lose every debate about me being racist.
Conversation has been totally derailed. The correct response is to tell them to F off and to go about your business. You're never going to convince
You're racist. Fuck off.
These people that you're not racist. You are wasting your time because you're agreeing with them that being racist is something that is a serious problem in American society. You're
What? What? Mask off? What? John Doyle, another quote. Racism is not a serious problem.
dignifying what they've said to you with a response. And that's idiotic. The same thing with the predominant conservative strategy now, which is to point out that the Democrats are the real racists.
Wait, that's what he's been doing this whole time. That was his claim. Maybe not Democrats specifically, but the left. So why is he like backpedaling all of a sudden?
There was a resolution introduced into Congress recently to ban the Democrat Party because its history of supporting slavery, because the Democrats are the real racists. And yet again, Republicans are too stupid to understand that they're committing suicide. They're playing right into the left's hand and moral framework, and they think that they're going to win, but they lose every time. Do you think anybody gives a crap what you're telling them about the Democratic Party of the 19th or even 20th century? That's
true. He said something common sense. It is irrelevant to today. I mean, we did have the Southern strategy
decades ago. They don't like you because they think you're racist now. And
true. John Doyle gets it.
Nothing is going to change that. They're not looking at it like, who did this to me, the Republicans or the Democrats? They're looking at it like, oh, it was white people in the left, in the media, in the university.
Well, not quite.
He's affirmed that like, yeah, it was white people. And the conservative response is to go, yes, but more specifically, it was the Democrats. They don't care. No one cares. That racist country that they're trying to fundamentally decompose is being handed off by the radical left politicians and by the media and by the universities. And your response is, well, at least it's the Democrats that screwed it up in the first place and made them hate it.
You know what's actually really funny? I like low-key agree with everything John Doyle's saying right now. Like, no one does care. If you say, well, actually the Democrats are the real racists, nobody gives a fuck. It's true. He's actually 100% correct on this point, which makes it so much more funny that he's so blind to everything else he said in this entire fucking video.
It doesn't matter. You doorknob. The end results are the same. Stop recycling old leftist talking points because you think it's going to win you the black vote. Have a seat for this one. It's not pretty. The Republican Party is never going to win the black vote.
They've just given up. They've given up. They've given up. Oh my god, I'm dying. John Doyle's killing me. He's killing me with how funny he is. They've given up. I got news for you, buckaroo. We're never getting the black people to listen to us or hear us out. We may as well just give up.
Possible. This is very simply because since black people exist as a minority group in this country, they have emphasized group solidarity in party politics so as to leverage their political strength.
This is true and a very good strategy, actually.
Loyalty is what's referred to as racialized social constraint, which is basically that support for the Democratic Party has come to be defined as a norm of group behavior, or in other words, it's just something that is expected of you as a black person, and it's meant to empower the group as a whole. And I have lots of black conservatives in the audience who I know can speak to this, that voting Democrat is just something that you're expected to do as a black American, and something that can get you ostracized if you don't do it. We all know that black Americans overwhelmingly vote for Democrats, but what you might not know is that even black Republicans don't vote for Republicans that often. In every presidential election between 1968 and 2012, black Republicans only voted majority Republican in half of them. Studies have shown that running black candidates as Republicans has basically no effect on getting black Americans to vote for Republicans.
Then maybe the policies would matter?
And even that blacks who self-identify as Republican only vote for Republicans about 12% of the time. Also, black attitudes towards things like gay marriage and abortion were not predictive of black voting, which is interesting because black Americans are very religious people. But with the data that we have available, if you wanted to get the probability of a black American voting Republican to be over 50%, you would have to look at black Americans who self-identify as Republicans and who also self-identify as evangelical Christians, and then who also supported the war in Iraq. And then even then, it's only 65%.
That's a really narrow fucking group of people.
It means that for the time being, Republicans are never going to get the black vote. It's just like virtually impossible. And the reason for that is that there is a pervasive and poisonous cultural narrative within black America that says racism and oppression are the reasons for discrepancies. And the Democrats are more than happy to go along with that for political power, but of course they don't.
Maybe, I mean, you kind of just described it, right? Like, let's be super, like, honest here. Basically what he's saying is that a lot of black Americans correctly identify that they're at a systemic advantage in their equality of opportunity, and that Republicans tend not to support that usually. So even if they run a black candidate, their policies aren't going to actually fix them. I mean, I don't know, or like fix these issues, right? So it seems like common sense that you'd expect that people wouldn't want to vote for some party that is against their interest. I don't know. Makes sense to me.
Don't actually care about black Americans. We know that, but it doesn't matter because now conservatives are in a tough position, because to address and agree with that cultural narrative would be false. But it's also difficult to sell anything else, especially considering how successful Democrats have been. And so Republicans foolishly believe that they can beat the Democrats at their own game by saying, hey, guess what? Democrats are the real racists. It will never work. If you want to bring black Americans to the Republican Party, you can't do it by playing a worse version of what
I literally
Democrats are
logged
doing.
back into
Like,
my dusty old Twitch account from you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, it's Ricardo, everyone. Welcome to the stream.
Order to their neighborhoods. You have to put their
Thank you for the
families
follow.
before the families of non-Americans, and you have to emphasize how gay the Democrats have made everything, for lack of a better phrase. Like, that would be a step in the right direction. But again, even stemming back to block voting as a strategy for leveraging group political power, you're talking about something.
It's RamJam413 on Discord. Yo, what's up, dude? Nice to see you again.
That is just not realistic. And it's not like I don't care about black people, so I'm just going to dismiss these problems. It's more like I do care about black people, and I think that what you're doing as the left is not only failing to solve any problems, I think it's also making them worse, and I'm suspect of your political aspirations giving the radical policy prescriptions which you've proposed.
I'd love to hear John Doyle give us a proposal. He's kind of just like vaguely gestured that the left is bad or whatever, but hasn't given any alternatives. Can you give me an alternative? I'm waiting.
This is said because we actually want to solve the problem. We have to identify the problem first, though. And when you pander to black Americans with the left's narrative that you know is complete BS, you're not actually earning their vote with anything compelling. You don't deserve it either. In 2012, Mitt Romney got 27% of the Hispanic vote. Hispanics are the largest minority group in America. They make up about 18% of the population. Mitt Romney got 27% of them to vote for him. Here's an interesting fact. If Mitt Romney had gotten 71% of the Hispanic vote, instead of just 27%, he still would have lost. But that being said, guess how many more percentage points of white voters he would have needed to win? 4%. The point of all this being that until we can figure out an actual strategy for appealing to these different groups of people, instead of just doing stupider and more dishonest versions of what the left is doing, we should probably focus on maintaining support with white voters. And then
basically, fuck all minority groups. We only need to win like white support. That's a pretty fucked up like strategy.
Once we get into positions of power and we start to get things on the right track again, then we can figure out other strategies, because it doesn't matter if the truth is on your side. If you don't control the media media or the universities, which you don't, by the way, then you're not going to win.
Like control, like maybe data's just not on your side. Like I don't know why there's always this like idea that the left controls the universities or controls the media. The media is a little weird because there's like advertising reasons that a lot of the media does what it does, and like the ability to get contacts and get sources that actually play into what they do. They tend to be like pretty in support of the status quo, but if the status quo is left, then sure, they just do what's kind of popular with people, even if it's like you've seen this all throughout history. But the universities, no, universities tend to be pretty good and objective, and maybe you should reconsider like if everything you read in studies disproves what you're saying, maybe you're wrong. But then again, he already said he doesn't really care. He said that he knows these to be true regardless of the facts. These are his feelings. He said that he believes in all these stupid things earlier in the video, and nothing can change his mind.
Win. And if and when we take those institutions back, we can start spreading things like that about our enemies to make sure that they never hold power again, because that's exactly what they're doing to us. But the difference is that the things that we will be saying are true. Then and only then can we begin tarnishing the history of the Democrats. Can we begin consolidating control of the blackmail tapes? Relaxed. You get the idea. But even then, it goes back to
what the fuck
we were talking about earlier with the inability to view the enemy through a lens other than the one provided by the left, who aren't our friends. Like I mentioned, that immigrant labor harms black Americans. And it's true that after Jim Crow ended, blacks were never really given a chance to succeed because of the 65 Immigration Act, and it was harder for them to find jobs that would pay relatively well. But you can't view
is there actually tied to the Immigration Act? It could be true, I'm not sure.
That through that lens, because your PP gets hard thinking about, well, people coming to America because they love it and they want to work hard. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but we've known for decades that immigrant labor disproportionately harms black Americans. But you'd rather tell me, John, it was the Democrat Party and Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society programs. John, do you know what he said about black voters? It would disgust you. And maybe after I'm done telling you about that, I can
Well, yeah, I mean, he said some pretty fucking stupid shit. Yeah, people were racist in the 60s.
tell you about who really founded the KKK. And it's like,
Yeah, we know that the Democratic Party used to be the most racist party. Things tend to change.
please stop. I know you think you're helping, but you're not. You can't beat them at their own game.
So basically he's saying you can't beat them at their own game, so we should just ignore the concept of racism and just do racism. Which, you know, kind of props to him for being that bold and just outright saying it, but also fucking terrifying that he believes this shit.
You are the poor American teenager walking into the jungles of Vietnam, and they are the Viet Cong who are going to tear you apart. You don't know this game. You don't know its rules. You will never win. Turn around and regroup. Otherwise, you're just burning resources. The unfortunate reality of our situation is that
we're dropping fucking Agent Orange on villages and causing birth defects, you know? Just burning fucking shit. Burning resources.
Politics is inevitable. We are living in a multiracial, multicultural society with nothing substantive under which to unify, and as a result of that, identity politics.
How about why can't we just like redefine America to be like caring about the well-being of other people, being patriotic, to be caring about your citizens, wanting everybody to do well, wanting to improve everybody's like well-being, like believing in equality, you know, believing in equality of opportunity. If we see like a group of people who's disproportionately affected by something, we all come together as Americans to make them like better, make everyone better, make the society better, treat people better. I think that's what we should do. We should redefine what it means to be an American in such a way that we're like actually friendly. We actually care for one another, you know, care for your neighbors. But I don't know. Is that too hard for John? Does he really think that like the only way we can do this is what? If everyone's Christian? I don't know. It's just like a really weird take.
Are inevitable, especially because the left has realized how effective they are for consolidating and increasing political power. And that's wrong of them to do. But the problem that conservatives have is that we think that issues can be evaluated and weighed in the abstract without any regard for emotion or lived experiences. We think that everything should just boil down to facts and logic. But unfortunately, that's just a pipe dream. That's not how human beings work. We are emotionally driven beings. So yeah, it would be great if everyone could set aside their differences and look at things objectively with ink and paper, but that's just never going to happen. So conservatives need to...
Well, yeah, I mean, if you take away people's lived experiences and the data, it's really easy to make his argument.
Figure out a way to coexist with that, because right now we're trying to fight this this consequence of human nature, while the left is running wild with it and just racking up points on us. Like, the problem with Black Lives Matter, according to most basic conservatives, would be, well, all lives matter, not just the black lives. That's missing the point. The real problem with Black Lives Matter is that virtually the entire narrative is a lie. The entire timeline from Trayvon to Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot, it's all a lie.
Well, no, but okay.
That's the problem. And if conservatives could take control of a narrative, they could communicate that better. But it goes back to the Gadsden flag versus silence is violence. As of now, conservatives don't exist to create narratives. We exist to basically react smugly to the narratives of the left, sometimes with facts and logic, as though this isn't...
No, I've heard a lot of feelings in this video, not a lot of facts and logic, a lot of outrage. There's been no facts and logic, but keep projecting on, keep role playing.
Equivalent or even comparable strategy for winning people to our side, but it isn't. If you want to be against something, you also have to be for something, and right now conservatives basically exist to be against the seductive collapse of our country. But
yeah, they tend, like, he's one of these people too. Like, conservatives are often very reactionary, depending on the conservative. Not all conservatives, but people like John Doyle are.
they're not exactly offering up any alternative solutions. And unless that changes, our future looks pretty gloomy. And the plan's not complicated. It was never complicated. It's not the Illuminati. It's not the Clintons. It's an elite ruling class who have unwaveringly imported the third world.
An elite ruling class. What elite ruling class? What ruling class are we talking about? Ruling class. Not the Clintons.
While offshoring manufacturing jobs so that they could hire cheap labor with the help of the bought and paid for Washington establishment.
Is he talking about capital? Is he talking about, you know, the Jews? Is it the Jews, John? Or is it capital? Because I don't like capital. I mean, I don't have any fucking issues with Jews, but yeah, I mean, sure, there's an elite group of people, but this isn't like orchestra puppeteering. This is more just like people acting in their class interest.
And not only do the politicians share in the profits off the mega corporations, they get to use the ever rewarding strength of diversity as political capital. They now have...
Huh? Hold on, I'm gonna read this. The dominant ideology of academia is absolute generic brand default settings, neoliberalism outside of history, sock gender. Even art students barely know shit about radical politics, but they're more likely to be radlibs. Yeah, that does tend to be true.
Have the opportunity,
but you know, they get really triggered about the history, sociology, gender stuff.
To create and exploit group division for political influence and power, and all of this has led to the complete destabilization of society to the levels which we're approaching now. We talk a lot on this channel about how the collapsed family structure has led to the destabilization of society, and that's part of it. But when you're living in a country with literally no unifying principles or heritage or culture or religion,
we can have principles, you know, like the French Revolution, Adam, you know, equality, fraternity. What's the other one? By the way, like, just equality, care for your other people, patriotism, as in you care about all the people in your country. Like, these can be the unifying principles of America. Like, why can't they be? Why can't they be, John?
Religion or language or even morality. The only thing left for you to do collectively is participate in the consumerist culture. But then even that becomes difficult because they're sending jobs overseas and bringing in millions of people to compete with American families for whatever's left. Like,
American family. It's such weird language. I mean, yeah, like, outsourcing jobs is really negative. I'd agree with that. I'd agree with, but like, his solutions only strengthen those in power, not actually solve any of the problems he's talking about. I mean, he has a fucking laptop sticker that says enjoy capitalism. He's just talking about capitalism. It's so weird that he like pretends he hates capitalism, has some like woke fucking views on like elites. Then he makes a sticker that just says enjoy capitalism on.
See, that might be a problem. Conservatives got so excited and caught up in defending capitalism that we forgot to defend America. Because if you don't put America first and you sell
economic nationalism. Yeah, this isn't fascist-y at all. I mean, the fact that he went to kind of bad for fascism, said but communism was worse, and then that if you make it about fascism, it makes him look bad, and now he's talking about like weird like economic nationalism where we need to balance capitalism in America. Like, it's kind of weird, and it gives off weird vibes to me.
To the lowest bidder in this case, then she won't be America much longer. Who do you think pays for those economic studies to be written? Those studies that prove living in a
Who does?
post-industrial economy is actually good for the average American because we can buy orange juice for 20 cents less. It's all
I mean, that's nice.
horse crap. There's no such thing as a post-industrial economy or society. Our jobs didn't just magically become information jobs or whatever. They just left. They just went away. They didn't all integrate into the information economy. They just
Someone who talks about capitalism, he seems really fucking stupid when it comes to markets.
disappeared. And the people who financed and made money from those decisions didn't care that towns throughout the heart of America were in the blast radius. The only reason that that information is so easily available and is taught to all of us throughout school, seemingly is the only concession that they'll give to capitalism, is because people paid for it to be there and they paid for it to be taught to you. The government is not your friend, but you know who else isn't your friend? Billionaires who use the government to hurt you for them so that they don't have to get blood.
LOL at the Tesla sticker. I thought Mr. Musk was a learning socialist. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck. He doesn't have a coherent ideology. He just kind of talks.
On their Armani suits. Never forget that. We're getting off topic. See, now I've gone too far. Now they're going to kill me. But I should have just said that everything can be traced back to the Clintons.
No, John, don't get CIA'd. Behind you. There's a red dot on your forehead.
That's the approved line for conservatives. And that's what was so funny to me about when Epstein died. And I did a video.
No, well, he did die. I don't know why he put it in like quotes. Like, he's still dead. Wait, does he believe Epstein's like not dead and like is hiding out somewhere?
About I was trying to get people to understand that this whole thing is so much bigger than the Clintons and that they basically
Right. I mean, Trump was part of it, right? So like, if you're gonna like, it's funny how people scream about the Clintons and not like Trump.
are irrelevant. And right on cue, I had people in the comments, no, it was the Clintons. And it's like, okay, cool. What are you going to do about it? You've got it all figured out. What's next?
John, listen, I agree with you on half the things you say, okay? I agree that the big, scary billionaires really fuck over the average person. So why don't we have a conversation about that? And you can drop all your weird nationalist talking points. We can come to an understanding that when you have people who have far more power than the average person, they tend to act in their class interest, and it tends to hurt a lot of people at the bottom. We can have that conversation. Want to have that conversation, John? We can do it.
Next. You look on late night television shows, all over social media, literally everyone, including the mainstream celebrities, were making jokes about how Epstein didn't kill himself. The Clintons did it again, and everyone had a good laugh about it. And I remember tweeting at that time about it. And I said something like, I'm glad everyone's just now coming out to discuss the circumstances surrounding Epstein now that it's a quirky little trend on social media. And it's like, you're going to make that joke and then you're going to go back to watching Parks and Recreation, right? Like,
what does Parks and Recreation have to do with? Oh, is he just saying people won't care? Maybe people should care.
You're going to post that and then you're going to be like, hey, honey, what's the Disney Plus password again? And it's just to show where we are as a society. How
almost like people don't tend to have like a lot of choices. No ethical consumption, maybe that's something to consider.
weak and pacified and impotent we are, that something like that could literally happen right in front of us, and the only thing that we can do is make it into a meme or even a holiday.
What's John Doyle doing about it? Is he like taking like his M1 Garand off the wall, putting on his World War II helmet, rushing up to the fucking White House with his fucking gun in the air? Tell us the truth about Epstein! Tell us the truth about Epstein! No, he's not doing shit either. He's having a fucking podcast like I am. I'm just fucking talking shit on the internet too.
Sweater so that everyone knows how topical and funny we are. The people who actually killed Epstein, and it wasn't the Clintons, they're not laughing with you when you say that. They're laughing at you because they know that they're untouchable and they know that you'll never do anything about it because you're too distracted.
Damn.
But anyways, see, now I'm really going to get hit. The point that I'm trying to make, or that I was trying to make, is that if you want to appeal to black Americans, then you have to appeal to black
John's
Americans.
so brave for making his 70,000 view YouTube video. Not that that's not a lot of numbers, but like, do you really think like that puts him in the target of like the CIA?
Get what I'm saying? Conservatives
Or I guess the billionaires or whatever the fuck he's talking about.
think that we can reject identity politics and still get black Americans to flip for us. But to believe that undermines the block voting strategy for political leverage that minority groups and particularly black Americans tend to practice. And that belief that we hold ignores the unique self-perceived
Can I get an F for our brave soldiers?
identity of black Americans. And for the time being, if we ever wanted to flip black Americans for Republicans, it would require us to acknowledge that unique self-perceived identity amongst black Americans. When we have power for 60 years and we control the narratives, then maybe we can get closer to viewing each other as just Americans, you know?
When we? Weird take, but okay.
But for the time being, we don't really have a choice with identity politics or things like it, because if we sit out...
Oh, identity politics have existed forever. Was it not identity politics when the slaves were literally forced to be slaves because they were black? Like, slaves' children were forced into bondage? That's identity politics, too. Was it not identity politics with Jim Crow laws? Was it not identity politics with redlining? Was it not identity politics when, like, you know what I mean? Like, this weird take that, like, identity politics is this new thing is ridiculous.
We keep singing the same old song that's led us to this point. We're just going to lose even harder and perhaps irreparably. And I know we said we were going to talk about systemic racism, but we've been going for a while. I don't know. I don't think I have it in me, to be honest. So if you've made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate you sticking around. We'll do it in the next video, the idea of systemic racism. We'll just go through it in detail. We'll just completely tear it to shreds and expose it for the lie that it is. But it's still good that we talk.
Spoiler alert. He fails really hard at it.
About this stuff, you know? It's important stuff. Hey guys, if you like this video, leave it a thumb.
All right, I'm going to say one nice thing about John Doyle, okay? I'm going to say one nice thing. The fact that he was able to talk nonstop for 40 minutes with, like, it looked like little to no cuts. Maybe I'm blinded, didn't recognize cuts. It's actually pretty impressive. It's funny that he thinks that politicians are more powerful and more dangerous than, like, CEOs and corporate boards, even though they command far more resources and political power with 0% of the public accountability. Yeah, I mean, like, shareholders have a lot of power. It's almost like the people with power tend to be the people with resources, like actual material resources. John Doyle. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you want to watch this content as it's made, follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/loyal. Links are in the description. Thanks, bye.